Hi, fifth graders. We're here for Fantasy Book Club session 14, where we're going to be talking about text features, thinking, creating, and writing. So, a lot of times in fantasy books, we will see that the author includes text features within the fantasy book. And sometimes we see these at the beginning of the book, or kind of within a chapter, or maybe at the beginning of a chapter. Text features that we might see are things like maps, diagrams, or pictures of the characters, or maybe a small picture of the scene that's happening in the book. All of these text features kind of help us just understand what the author is writing and what the story is about a little bit better. And we can study those and learn more about them. So that's going to be our work for today, is that we are going to analyze and interpret text features in my fantasy novel, or that we can create a text feature for my fantasy novel. So sometimes we don't always see text features in our novels, and that's okay too. But we're going to think about how we can create one to help people that are reading the novel have a better understanding of what's going on. So here I have a couple of examples of some text features that I have seen in fantasy novels before. This text feature is from the book York, the Shadow Cipher. This is a map of the city of York that's in the beginning of the book. And this can give us a lot of information and can kind of help us better understand the story as we read it by being able to look back at that map and figure out, where the characters are traveling or where they're at in that moment in the story. So this is a pretty important text feature, and that's why the author included it. Another text feature that I wanted to show was in the Harry Potter series. At the beginning of each chapter, there's a small little picture at the beginning of the chapter. And a lot of times these pictures can give you some information about kind of what's to come in that chapter. I know that it kind of draws me in, gives me a little bit better of an idea of what I should be imagining as I'm reading that chapter in the Harry Potter series. But it can also kind of spark some wonderings in my mind as well as I'm reading. I kind of think, oh, what is that? Or this picture doesn't really make sense right now. But once you read the story, it does. So if I was looking at, these types of text features in my fantasy novel, down at the bottom here, it says, after you analyze the text features, write down what you learned from them or what you noticed. And so you'll want to, if you have text features in your fantasy novel, you'll want to take a close look at them and just think about, what are you noticing that you didn't think about before, or what's something that you learned by looking closely and analyzing those text features. So like I said, some of you are not going to have text features in your fantasy novel, and that is totally okay. In that case, you would go ahead and you would create one for your novel. And you can create one, a text feature, and these text features can be a variety of different text features. So you can think about maybe creating a family tree or a character connection diagram. And that's actually the example that I have right here. Somebody drew this up for the book Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And this is kind of a character connection map. So up here you see that they have Lucy, Susan, Peter, and Edmund. They're all siblings in here. And then they have arrows kind of drawn all over to different characters and how those characters connect to together and what happens in the story. And so they've actually created their own text feature for that book, since this was not included, and it helps them understand the book better, as well as just like keep the information straight. All right. Some other options of some text features that you could create. How about a picture of a character? So maybe there's a really interesting character that is in your book that you want to create a picture of. If I'm thinking of the Harry Potter series and the first time that I read it, I really wish I would have created a picture of what I imagined Hagrid to be, in what I was imagining in my mind before the movie and everything came out, because I think that would be pretty interesting. So you could pick a character to draw. You could also, if your story doesn't include one, you could include a map of where the story takes place. So kind of just thinking about, the places that or what the setting includes, or maybe even just like what the setting looks like. That would be a good text feature as well. Um, or finally, I have timeline of events. Now, this would be kind of similar to um, your story mountain. If you're keeping track of the events and things on a story mountain, that would be really similar to that. It would look a little bit different, and you probably, depending on where you're at in the book, you wouldn't want to include all the timeline of events because then you'd be kind of giving it away. So you'd want to be thinking about also like where would you place that in the book, if you decide to do that text feature. These are just examples of 4 different types of text features that you could do. However, if you have a better idea or a different idea that you would like to do, and create one for your fantasy novel, feel free to do that. Yeah, create it, send us a picture. We would love to see it. So, just going over our learning target and success criteria again. I can analyze and interpret text features in my fantasy novel. So you can do that if your novel has text features, or if it doesn't, I can create a text feature for my fantasy novel. And so here's your success criteria is choose a text feature to analyze, write down what you learned or what you noticed. Okay, or you can create a text feature for your book, which could be like a family tree, character connection chart, picture of a character, map of setting, timeline of events, and then finally send a picture to your teacher. We would love to see these text features that you're thinking about or that you're creating. All right, I'll see you guys in book clubs.
Hey, fifth graders, this is Miss Olson, and we are going to go into another writing lesson around opinion writing. And today I'm going to teach you about planning out a persuasive speech. And that's going to look a little different than our other opinion writing because when you are writing a speech, you're wanting to really cause a larger change to happen. And so we're going to be thinking about that and what that could look like and how to plan one of those out so that you can hopefully communicate the message you want and get the changes that you would like as well. So our target for today is, just like I said, I can plan a persuasive speech. So we're going to start out by imagining something within our school or a place within our school. And you guys can close your eyes and really kind of remember what it looked like when you were in there. And like you're walking through the hallways or walking into the cafeteria, maybe you're heading out to the portable, any of those scenarios, and just really picture it in your head. And is there something as you're imagining it or walking through those scenes in your head that you're thinking, man, I just wish this could be different or this could be better? And is it something that you feel strongly enough about that maybe you would like to propose a change to make something better? And we're going to continue to look through those things. And I took some suggestions from some kids about what are some of the things that they were thinking just about our school that maybe they would like to look a little bit different. So one of the things that I heard, one of the changes that kids would like seeing is some more art time. So as you walk through our hallways, there's different there's art on the hallway walls, things like that, but maybe that we could use a little bit more. Another thing was the cafeteria. Everyone sits at long tables with these individual chairs. I heard somebody say that, it might be nice if it could be set up a little bit differently, that we could sit with different friends or maybe just not in all those long rows. And so just some wondering and ideas about how that could be. I heard another person say that maybe more field trips would be a great plan. I also heard recycling. There was one person that felt really strongly about that we do recycle paper in classrooms, but there's a lot of other places that we could be recycling, like specifically in the cafeteria when kids are bringing bottled water or other containers that could be recycled rather than thrown away. And then another person suggested more buddy class time, just time to spend with our second grade buddies and getting to know them a little bit better and working with them and helping them out. So those are all really, really great suggestions of things that we might need to see changed. And so we're going to do a little bit more thinking about those and how to plan out a speech so that we could present it to a person who actually would have that power to make those changes for us. So just like with all of our opinion writing that we've done this unit, we want to remember to have a very strong claim. And oftentimes that's the answer or the solution to a problem or to a question is our claim. We want to have reasons to support that, and we want to have some examples and evidence that support those reasons. So today we're really going to be focusing on the C and the R, the claims and the reasons. Okay, the evidence piece, you might find some of those as you're going through, and you'll have to just kind of know, actually, this is evidence and not a reason. But we're going to focus on those in our next session. So for me, the claim that I want to make is that we need to be better at recycling. We have the recycling cans in our classroom, but like cafeteria, there's a lot of stuff that goes to waste in there that could possibly be recycled. Some of my favorite places that I go, like the Mount Baker ski area, when you're done eating lunch up there, there's like 4 different holes that you can stick stuff in that are all different ways of recycling. So one is for like food garbage, and one is for plastics, and one is for bottles, and it actually doesn't cause that big of a problem for people to have to go through and sort it like that. And so that's one of the things I was just thinking that maybe that's something that we can make a little bit better at our school. So the solution is that we need to recycle better, and that's my claim. That's what I want to say, feel strongly about. One of the reasons I think that is the bins are just a giant mess. I think we can get better at it. We have, like, there's stuff in there that doesn't belong. There's stuff hanging off the sides. I just think we can do that better. Another reason we need to change this is actually kids don't always know what goes into which bins, or they just don't respect the labels. So if I walk past the recycle bin and I see like a Kleenex tissue in there, that doesn't belong in there. And so just going through some training and explaining, okay, how do we help kids to know how to do this better? So those are 2 of my reasons, and I definitely have more that go with it. But I just wanted to give you an example of how you could start yours out. One thing I want you to notice is, do you see all this space down below at the bottom of my page? That's on purpose, because in the next lesson that we do, we're going to be thinking about different ways we can have examples and evidence, and that space down there is for those pieces of evidence and the stories and the explanations. So I want you to write your reason close to the top so that you have enough room to do all those other pieces later. So your task is going to be to choose something that you feel very strongly about, and you are going to make up your own speech plan. Okay. This was one you're going to send a picture of, and so actually the pictures I'm going to get is there's going to be 5 sheets of paper. One that is your claim, one that's your reason 2, reason 3, and then a solution. Some of the ideas that putting them all together. Okay, and make sure that you send those in. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out and ask us on Teams, and I look forward to seeing your plans.
Hi, 5th grade, Mrs. McMillan back with your McMillan Minute, or 10. All right, for today, you're going to need to go ahead and grab the second math packet as well as a pencil. Remember that sometimes in math, it's hard, but I want you to keep working and persevering, and so that's what I want you to try today. Go ahead, pause the video, come on back with your packet and your pencil, and get ready to go. All right, welcome back. I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad that we can do this together today. I want to go ahead and go over what our target is today so that we can be thinking about that throughout our lesson. And then also our success criteria. How are you going to show me and Mrs. Leibolt that you really know what to do? So the target is I can use a ratio table to divide fractions. And the way you're going to do that is you're going to use the ratio table, and I'm going to walk you through some examples. You're going to show your work. How did you get there? And you're also going to solve. The paper that we are working on today is called Division with Fractions, and it looks like this. One thing I think that might trick some of you is it doesn't tell you how many molds there are. You can go ahead and just assume there's one mold. So you're trying to fill one mold at a time. And the same thing goes down here, trying to fill, it says that Alice is filling some cupcake molds and going to put some crayons in there. Again, just try to figure out for one whole mold. And then down here, there's a story problem that you're going to write. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm not going to do the actual problems today, but I'm going to work on some problems that are very similar. And so you can use what we learn in order to apply it to the other one. So here is the problem that we are going to work on together. My daughter, Macy, has been cleaning her room. Thank goodness. So she actually has a clean room. And Macy can clean 1/4 of her room in 15 minutes. How long will it take Macy to clean the entire room? And going back to our target, it said that we're going to solve these division problems using a ratio table. So this is what it's going to look like. We are going to draw out a ratio table. And I'm actually just going to put it in a box for us so we can think about her whole room. So here's what my ratio table looks like. I put it in a box just to kind of help us keep track of what's going on. So it says 1/4 of her room in 15 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and put in the amount of her room. And I'm going to put minutes. And we already know that she can do 1/4 of her room in 15 minutes. So I've started my ratio table. I want to figure out how am I going to get to 1/2 of her room. So I know that if she does 1/4 of her room, it's 15 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say she does double that. And I know double or 2 times 1/4 is 1/2. So if I doubled up here, or I multiplied by 2, then I'm going to do the same down here. Times 2. And 15 times 2 is 30 minutes, or you could say a half hour. Those are the same. Okay, but Macy still doesn't have her whole room done. I have a couple of options now. One option would be I could do 1/4 of her room plus 1/2 of her room to figure out 3/4 of her room. So let's go ahead and do that. So I know, and I'm going to do that in a different color so you can kind of see what's happening. So if I want to put these two together, I can see that my denominators are different, right? We've talked about 1/2 is the same as 2/4. So 2/4 plus 1/4 is going to be 3/4 of her room. And if I added these two together, then I'm going to add these two together. And 15 plus 30 is 45. So it would take her 45 minutes to do 3/4 of her room. Now, another option I could have done, and I bet some of you jumped right to that, is if you know that 1/2 of her room takes 30 minutes, 1/2 times 2 is 1/2. That would be her whole room. So 30 times 2 is going to be 60 minutes. So then I'm going to write my answer. And my answer is that it would take Macy 60 minutes or 1 hour to clean the whole room. All right. So that's how you would use a ratio table to work on your division. Now, let me go ahead and go over what that might sound or look like if it was a story problem. So let's say I have 15 divided by 1/3. Let's go back a few weeks to where we talked about if I had brownie pans and I was dividing them up amongst my neighbors. So in this story, I'm going to say I have 15 brownie pans. I made a lot of brownies. I want to give my each neighbor 1/3 of a pan. How many neighbors can I give brownies to? So now I've gone ahead and I've written out this problem. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to solve it down here. And I'm going to use that ratio table to solve, because if I go back to our target, I can use a ratio table to solve my problem. So again, I'm going to draw out my ratio table. It doesn't have to be orange, just happens to be what I have. And sometimes I don't know how long this is going to be. So if I need to not use all the boxes, that's okay. If I need to use more boxes, totally fine. Just going to draw some in here so I can think about what I'm trying to do, right? So I know that this is going to be the number of neighbors, okay? And this is going to be the brownies. So I know I have 1/3 of a pan of brownies, and I would be able to give that to one neighbor. Okay, and then I could say, well, I know that 1/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3, that'd be 1 pan of brownies, right? If I have 1 pan of brownies, I could give that to 3 neighbors, because 1/3 times 3 is 1, and 1 times 3 is 3. But I need to do 15 pans of brownies. Well, I could do 15, and then that would be multiplied by 3 times 15. I could do that. I want to try some smaller steps. What if I just double that? Well, then I would have 2 pans of brownies. And if I doubled here, right, doubled means times 2, then I'm going to double here. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, so now I've fed 6 neighbors. I've used up 2 pans of brownies. I need to get to 15 pans of brownies. And I would keep going. So I'm going to keep doing that, and I'm going to be back to show you my work. All right, 5th grade. I've gone ahead and I've done the work for us. Let's take a look and see what I did. We were back here where we had 1 and we had the 2, right? Figuring out how many how many neighbors I could feed the brownies to. So now I'm going to add the 1 and the 2, and I got 3. And I'm going to add the 3 and the 6, because that's what I did to the top. That's what I do to the bottom. So now I have used 3 pans of brownies and 9 neighbors. Now I know that 3 times 5 is 15. And I know from my story that I have 15, should say pans of brownies. Oops. And so I then multiplied 3 times 5 and I got 15. And then I did 9 times 5 and I got 45. Now some of you thought way back here, well, I could just do 3 times, right? I could do 1 times 15 and get 15. And I could do 3 times 15. That is also correct. I could have gone here and multiplied all the way to this spot without doing these other steps. But I just wanted to show you those other steps. So I can give 45 neighbors 1/3 of a pan. I better add that in. I hope you guys caught that mistake. I can give 45 neighbors 1/3 of a pan of brownies. Today, I want you to work really hard and persevere, meaning never give up. Keep trying even when it's hard on your math. Your target, again, is that I can use a ratio table to divide fractions. You're going to be using that ratio table. You're going to show your work. How did you think about it on your ratio table? I want to see those steps you took, and then I want you to solve it, meaning tell me what the answer is. Okay, I appreciate how hard you guys are working. Keep it up, and we'll see you back here next week.